It is time to expand minds through movies, TV, sports, and flicks. It is time to boldly go where no podcast has gone before. It is time for the Captain Talks Flicks.
The Captain Talk Flicks.
Welcome to the Captain Talks Flicks podcast. I'm your host, the Captain Cortez, aka Mr. Love, and this is where we talk flicks. And ladies and gentlemen, this past week, I went back to outer space. I went to a space station. I went to Deep Space Nine. Again, let me get to that first couple things. I want to give a big shout out to Minneapolis. Got some plays for Minneapolis this past week. Gracias, gratitude, Toraba. And Minneapolis, I heard this June, you guys are going to go ahead and do a festival or tribute or have some things going down for the one and only Prince, because Prince is from your town. Very cool. I guess there's concerts or food or something like that going on. Looks very, very cool. You know, if I have some time and the resources, maybe I'll dip in there. So I hope that goes really well. Prince is an awesome artist, can play so many instruments. Very, very talented music artist. Rest in peace. Love that dude. So thanks for listening. Appreciate you guys' gratitude. And additionally, this episode is brought to you by the album Still Well Fed. So Sunzu Cosmic and Renalian did a follow-up to last summer's Well Fed and did a continuation called Still Well Fed, where they do 4 tracks about food. Various foods, rapping about foods in their unique ways. So if you want to hear Still Well Fed, talk about food, I will put them below. Check it out now. Let's get on with the podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, before I get into this week's podcast, I just want to say a big thank you and gratitude to the city of Grand Rapids, Michigan. Me and the Queen were there yesterday, shopping, hanging out, celebrating Record Store Day. I picked up the album Dope by Chuck D and John Desmore from The Doors, the drummer. Phenomenal album, played it last night. Dope, loved it. Also had some food at local spots at the mall. Did some shopping, hung out, saw the people. The energy in Grand Rapids is phenomenal. The vibe was great. We're in the mall chilling, eating, going around town, thought the city. Beautiful, beautiful, lovely city. It was a great day. And me and the Queen want to thank you guys for giving us lovely, lovely hospitality while in your city. So if you guys roll through Michigan, of course, come to Lansing, baby, because we here, East Lansing, but Grand Rapids too. Phenomenal, phenomenal city. In fact, all the cities in Michigan are great. So yeah, so thank you guys. Appreciate you guys. And now it is time to get into one of my most favorite episodes of Star Trek of all time. So it's recently the anniversary of this episode on Tax Day back in 1998. This episode of Deep Space Nine had debuted. We're talking about the episode called In the Pale Moonlight. Now I've watched this periodically over the years, and I decided, I'm going to revisit this. There's no Trek on TV currently. Sometimes I'm watching the older stuff. As a 50-year-old man who has went down the rabbit hole of studying intelligence, counterintelligence, espionage, war, all that for the last 15 years of hardcore, I see this episode different than I saw the last time I saw it, because I just did more studies with it, and it is super, super powerful. The performances are powerful. Garrick, the Cardassian on the space station, is a spy. Let's just say he's a spy for real. And so to see him act in the way he does now he is, I see him differently because I've been going on that rabbit hole so long of studying the game, the great games they say. And this episode and this show in general is a solid, powerful series. You can talk to anybody that loves Star Trek, they will tell you Deep Space Nine is solid, it's great, it's phenomenal. One of the best series of Treks that's ever made. And Avery Brooks' performance as Captain Sisko, it's so good. He's right there with the Patrick Stewart. Patrick Stewart is powerful. I love Patrick Stewart as Jean-Luc Picard, my favorite captain. But Avery Brooks, he brings it. He brings it. He's so good. So in this episode, the Federation is currently at war. The later half of this series, can't remember which season it started in, a war began with the Dominion. And so we see in this episode, that basically, Federation's losing. And they really need some allies right now because they're really, really hurt. And then Sisko comes to the conclusion, you know what? If we can't, change something, we might lose this war. And so they felt that if they could get the Romulans on their side. So after coming to this conclusion, Sisko and Dax kind of red team that. Sisko is, tried to convince her, and she's playing the role of what the Romulans might say, and she shoot him down. And this, I do this myself. I'm not at war, but just to handle my life. And so they come to the conclusion that, that the Ramans will not be convinced with words. A lot of times, like I said last episode, words are powerful. You can use words to convince people if you're good at talking. But sometimes people cannot be swayed by words because they're very smart, very intelligent, and it takes more than your fancy words to convince them. When it comes to that, sometimes kinetic action needs to take place. Now, in this particular situation, that's what has to happen because these Ramans are super smart, the ones running the space, and these words will not convince them. So then Cisco devised a plan to bring them into the war. Now, this does mimic reality. If you study history and know history, I think during World War II, the Allies, when they were battling, the Axis powers, they wanted to bring America to the war. Because at that moment in time, World War II, America was getting in there, right? The UK and all the other allies, they wanted to bring us in there. And so action was taken, I believe, on their side to fabricate some kind of a letter, I think it was found on the beach. I'm pretty sure it's World War II. And it brought them in, and I think the letter did spark the events that eventually brought America into World War II. You can research and look it up if you want the details, the factuals of that. But this episode kind of mimics that. So Cisco has to do something, fabricate something. They got to do a lot of nefarious lying, cheating, stealing, bad things in order to get these Ramans to the war. And then Cisco is a member of Starfleet, sent a captain, and the values and morals of this particular organization is not that. And so for Cisco to choose that path was super tough. And you see him kind of narrate it through some kind of log. So what I want to talk about this specifically is that I have gone on the rabbit hole of this kind of ideology and beliefs for many years. In a part of the mission of a lot of the espionage intelligence organizations around the world is they do things that necessarily the regular forces will not do. And sometimes it does trade into murky area, like we see here. I don't know the specific details because a lot of this is classified and I've never been in that world. But imagine there's some kind of play like this in an episode that goes down. And as a human, it has to make these choices, call these shots, and live with the results of them. I mean, it's got to be so tough. Super tough. In this episode, there was some collateral damage for taking this action. But the way that, Garrick Spencer is bro, you pretty much saved the Alpha Quadrant for doing it. That being said, you still have to sleep at night and live with that. And as I watch that, it's I'm glad that I'm not in a position where I call these shots. I'm not an immense man of lots of power where I have to make these decisions. But to make that, oh my gosh. And I watched a show earlier, I was watching some video earlier of a person that is in or was part of those organizations. And she was saying on some level, to be part of those organizations, you have to have some sociopathic tendencies to call shots like that, to make those kind of choices. Yeah, and I would think you probably might have to. This kind of decision to make is super hard. Now, how you decide these things, I don't know. But anyways, Star Trek just wrestles with these kind of, thoughts and ideas and choices in many of its shows over the last, 60 years. That's why I like the show so much, because it just kind of makes you ponder and think about different things you might have not thought about. And so this episode in the Pale Moonlight is a phenomenal episode. Highly recommend you check this out. It's one of Trek's best. So yeah, this was podcast. This was the anniversary of the episode recently. And I watched it because, there's a Trek drop right now. But there's a movie on the horizon. I guess a new movie's gonna be coming out, sooner or later. The movie, I guess, is gonna be something we've never seen before, characters never heard about before, brand new ideas. We'll see what happens. As a long-time Trek fan, I'll be there, no matter what it's like. So anyways, this is a cool podcast. Thanks for joining me. And until next time, we'll see. Like all great travelers, I have seen more than I remember and remember more than I've seen. Benjamin Disraeli. Till next time, it's Captain Peace.
The Captain Talks.